All right, so effective July 1st, 2023, the adult use of marijuana in Maryland has been legalized. We're going to start this video with 10 things that everyone needs to know about possessing marijuana in Maryland. All right, so number one, adults are legally permitted to possess 1.5 ounces of cannabis in Maryland now. Number two, cannabis use in a motor vehicle, however, remains illegal under Maryland law, so officers can now make a DUI arrest if they observe impairment. Number three, adults may grow up to 2 cannabis plants in their home for personal use. Number four, it is still a crime to drive under the influence of a controlled substance. Number five, possession with the intent to distribute is still a felony offense. Okay. Number six, interstate transport is still illegal under federal law. No crossing the borders with the bud. Number seven, it is also banned at national parks, military bases, and anywhere else considered federal property. So watch where you are. Number eight, while a Maryland adult can have marijuana on their personal possession, state law bans anyone from smoking weed in public. Number nine, the odor of marijuana will no longer be enough probable cause to search a vehicle. And number 10, making marijuana legal in Maryland doesn't mean your employer has to allow it. Maryland is what's called an at-will employment state, so your employer can still create policies that support a drug-free workplace. Peace and love, good people. Peace and love. On today's episode of Jawann Talks, we're diving into the hot topic of legalized weed in Maryland. As you may know, cannabis has been a hot topic of discussion for years now, with many states legalizing it for both medical use and recreational use. I'm hopeful that this video will help you reduce the intensity of any worry or concern you may have about the policy changes, as well as inform you of information you may not have considered when hearing the news of legalized recreational use of marijuana in Maryland. So, let's find out what I discovered about legalized weed in Maryland. Okay, so now, you might be wondering, who regulates the expanded medical and adult use cannabis industry in Maryland? Well, with the passing of House Bill 556 and Senate Bill 516, a new agency called the Maryland Cannabis Administration was established. This agency is responsible for regulating cannabis businesses in the state of Maryland. The existing MMCC staff, or the Maryland Medical Cannabis Commission staff, transitioned to this new agency to ensure there are no hiccups in operations for businesses and patients in Maryland. So, how does the legalization of adult use cannabis impact the existing medical cannabis program? Well, the new law in Maryland doesn't directly affect the medical cannabis program. Patients can still obtain medical cannabis from licensed dispensaries, and individuals 18 years older or 18 years or older can register to participate in that medical program. The new law even establishes patient-only operating hours and dedicated service lines to ensure the registered patients have continued access to their necessary medication. Now, here's an important point to note. Smoking cannabis, whether it's for medical or recreational use, is prohibited in public places. This includes outdoor spaces like parks, streets, and sidewalks, as well as indoor spaces open to the public, such as bars, restaurants, and public transportation. And since cannabis remains illegal at the federal level, possessing it on any federal property like national parks is also prohibited. And here's something everyone needs to know. Driving high can now lead to a DUI, driving under the influence. Using cannabis while driving, whether you're the driver or a passenger, is illegal in Maryland. Law enforcement officers can make a cannabis DUI arrest if they observe impairment using standard field sobriety testing. It is advised you wait 6 hours after using marijuana before you attempt to drive. Remember, even a little high is too high to drive. Cannabis can impair important skills needed for safe driving, such as coordination, judgment, reaction time. It's not always easy to recognize when you're impaired by cannabis, and the effects of edibles can be delayed. So, always be responsible and make a plan before consuming. Now, let's talk about who can legally purchase cannabis in Maryland. Just like with tobacco and alcohol, the legal purchase age for cannabis is 21 or older. So you'll need a valid government-issued ID, such as a driver's license or passport, to make a purchase at a licensed dispensary. Those are the only places where you can legally buy cannabis in Maryland. Here's an important reminder. If you're in Maryland, you can't take cannabis out of Maryland. Cannabis remains illegal under federal law, and transporting it across state lines is prohibited. This applies to both medical and adult use cannabis products. So make sure to enjoy your cannabis within the state boundaries and be aware of the legal restrictions. But first thing first, what exactly is cannabis? Well, cannabis is a plant with many names: marijuana, weed, gas, dye, pack, hash, and it can have psychoactive characteristics. It's consumed for both medical and non-medical purposes. The cannabis plant contains hundreds of chemical compounds, including cannabinoids and terpenes. One of the most well-known cannabinoids is THC, which stands for tetrahydrocannabinol. THC is responsible for the psychoactive effect you get from cannabis, commonly known as getting high. On the other hand, we also have CBD, or cannabidiol, which is the second most prevalent cannabinoid in cannabis. Unlike THC, there is no getting high from CBD by itself. Now, you might have heard of hemp. Hemp refers to varieties of cannabis plants that contain 0.3% or less delta-9 THC. It has various industrial uses and can be made into consumable products derived from hemp. The new adult use legislation in Maryland regulates intoxicating hemp products along with other cannabis products, while exempting non-intoxicating products like CBD, edibles, lotions, and tinctures. But what about the health risks associated with adult use cannabis? Well, the full health impacts are not yet fully known. Some studies have linked frequent cannabis use to cannabis use disorder, addiction, anxiety, paranoia, and even psychosis. Regular smoking or vaping of cannabis, even without tobacco, can also cause lung irritation or inflammation. Additionally, secondhand cannabis smoke may possess health risks similar to tobacco smoke. And what about using cannabis during pregnancy or while breastfeeding? It's important to note that just because a product is legal doesn't mean it's safe for everyone to use. The American College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists and the American Academy of Pediatrics recommend avoiding any type of cannabis, including CBD, during pregnancy and breastfeeding due to the lack of research on its effects. Mixing cannabis with other substances can also have risks. Using cannabis and alcohol together can result in greater impairment and increased personal harm. Tobacco and cannabis use together can harm the lungs and cardiovascular system. Additionally, cannabis may alter the effects and potency of prescription medication. It's always important to consult with your doctor about potential interactions. Now, let's talk about the impact on our young people. Cannabis can harm the health and well-being of young people, especially as their brains are still developing. Parents, caregivers, and trusted adults should discourage youth and young adults from using cannabis, avoid consuming it in front of them, and always keep it secured, stored. As we wrap up this video, I want to mention how fascinating it is to see how the new legislation impacts various aspects of cannabis use and regulation. Remember, While cannabis may be legal in Maryland, it's crucial to understand the rules and make informed decisions. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Jawann Talks. Stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, don't forget to prioritize your mental health and safety. I'll see you all next time. Okay, and lastly, I want you all to know that if you made it to the end of the video, there are some handouts in the description, some links to some handouts in the description that give you detailed information of some of the points that I brought up in this particular video, and you can easily print them or screenshot them and carry them around with you to keep track of the important things that you need to be aware of as we transition into this new regulation. Peace and love to you.